Women's studies professor calls for human extinction because of climate change. Unless this call for human extinction comes in her own suicide note, there's absolutely no point taking her seriously. Although women's studies was your first tip-off. I'm Dr. Duke, she is Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness, the immorality, the stupidity impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we're talking about the power of leftist activism as Dartmouth College allows classes to be interrupted by those pushing AOC's Green New Deal. Plus, a black student is caught lecturing white students for daring to occupy space in the new multicultural building. But we start with a college professor who claims the only way to save our planet is for humans to become extinct. And again, I'm not kidding about that. Why do these people never lead by example? I would take her seriously. I would be willing to entertain her stupidity. And if you look at the picture right there, she looks like a character from Beetlejuice. Yes. Nevertheless, right? And so the cult of death is not something that should bother her, right? Maybe she's one of the Walking Dead. One of those, look at how small her head is. Maybe she's one of those little Beetlejuice creatures. In any event, why do they never lead by example? I mean, why, if you believe this, shouldn't we be reading this in your suicide note? I mean, I guess, tenure is so important as a women's studies professor. Women's studies professor, that actually legitimizes basket weaving. Remember back in the day when we used to call a waste of space major basket weaving or underwater aerobics? Now you've got women's studies professor that it ties it all together. In the modern age, you want the walking, talking, breathing definition of a completely waste of space major. There you have it.
I know you were saying important things just now, but all I can think of is Beetlejuice.
No, please don't summon her.
Okay, well, her name is Patricia McCormick, and she has this new book out, and it's titled The A-Human Manifesto, Activism for the End of the Anthropocene. And the Anthropocene is a fancy university way of saying the duration of time that human beings have been alive and ruining everything. Yeah, okay. She's saying the idea is that the Earth is going to be better off without us, the human beings, and therefore we should start being super activist about it, and then that will lead to our human being extinction. And that's a brilliant point. She's going to just write her way out of her entire life.
And here's the funny thing. It's not really, just like Greta Thunberg, when you scratch little Greta's rhetoric, you hear global socialism, right?
Oh, yes.
Same thing with her. Quote, the book also argues that we need to dismantle religion and other overriding powers like the Church of Capitalism or the cult of self, as it makes people act upon enforced rules rather than respond thoughtfully to the situation in front of them. So again, you scratch the surface, and the A-Human Manifesto, and I can't believe she allows it to be called a manifesto.
How dare.
But yeah, you're going to say
how
something.
dare you? If she's saying the Church of Capitalism, and she's slinging a book out right now, is every single penny made from that book going to her own extinction? Because that's what it should.
Now, how many trees were killed to reproduce her book, right?
Exactly.
Her A-Humanist Manifesto. And so religion and the Church of Capitalism, right? So in her mind, capitalism and organized religion, I'm sure she doesn't include Islam in that, at least not overtly, right? I'm sure those are the problems. So what is the problem here? It's not really that, because she's not going to kill herself.
No.
No one's going to kill herself for this themselves. But she wants to get at the underlying cause, right? Which is traditional Western culture. That's what's got to go.
And if you're first reading this saying, okay, there's no way a professor would actually call for human extinction, you would think, oh, this is probably a joke. No, if you look at her basically, her other manifestos, her other books out there, she has The Animal Catalyst, The Post-Human Ethics, and then she has a book called Cinesexuality. And this all makes sense because her research interests include sexuality and queer theory, ethics, post-human theory, animal studies, and my favorite, European horror film, especially German expressionism and Italian horror of the 1960s to 1980s.
She's the nerdy goth girl from your sophomore year in high school who now got tenure. That's who she is, right? Congratulations.
Nailed it.
Congratulations, Elvira. You got a PhD, and you convinced Cambridge University that you're worth tenure. But please, unless we get from you this manifesto, this person offendo, right? Person offesto. Unless we get that from you in a suicide note next to a bottle of Vicodin that you just swallowed, we don't want to hear from you, sissy.
Beetlejuice. On to Dartmouth College, the prestigious Dartmouth College, where the Dartmouth Review, the school newspaper, ran a story by a student named Kevin Burgess. And he basically explained how Dartmouth College has been letting this climate activist crash courses, around campus. This climate activist, and her name, I guess, is Katie. But they discovered her name to probably be Katie Morse Gagne, according to her LinkedIn.
Well, I think that's pronounced Katie Morse Gagme.
No, maybe that is. Yeah.
Katie Morse Gagme.
She is a recent Bodine College graduate who is working for climate justice with the Sunrise Movement as a field organizer. And so when she goes to Dartmouth, she is going into these classrooms and she's spouting off about the Green New Deal. She's wearing the Green New Deal t-shirt. She's advocating on behalf of the New Hampshire Youth Movement, which is a completely left-wing organization.
Right, and no one gets angry, and no professor stops her. She's allowed to walk right in. Burgess continues. For months, Katie has been entering classes to advocate her organization's left-wing agenda. The process usually begins as follows. Once class begins, Katie spontaneously arrives, where she asks the professor if she can give a quick presentation. The professor, often reluctant to say no. Why are you reluctant to say no? If if anybody walked into my classroom and said, I'd like to make a presentation after class started, I'd say no.
I'm going to come onto campus.
Do it. Yes. I will even veto you.
Oh,
I'll subject you to Molest Me Mondays.
No.
Right, whatever they call it.
Aw, that makes me sad. I had a whole presentation already.
But the professors are reluctant to. So any idiot can walk into your classroom?
They begrudgingly comply, allowing her to deliver her message.
Why? I guarantee you, if somebody walked into their classrooms with a MAGA hat on, it's like, let's keep America armed, there's no way the professor would begrudgingly let them speak.
All right, so what happens? Kevin says this has happened in several classes. His first encounter with Katie was at his Geography 18, Urbanization and the Environment class.
Wait, stop. Geography is what about? What is geography about? Is about what?
What it's supposed to be about?
It's not right.
Places around the world.
We made this point a couple weeks ago, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
That geography used to be about study of typography, very important stuff. And what is his geography course about?
Urbanization and
the environment. There you go. Just so you know, yeah.
All right, so she proceeded to introduce herself and share the really great things her organization advocates for, also known as the leftist laundry list. She asks to fill out these cards, and on the cards, you're supposed to indicate political matters important to us from a list of options, as well as provide their contact information. And you can see in the card, it's all heavily slanted. It has no mention of the economy or anything. It's, do you care about the Green New Deal or free college for all? How about voting rights?
And look at the board. So this is not can I do a quick presentation? This is a sign-up. This is a sign-up campaign. This must have easily taken 15, 20 minutes of class time to make her pitch, to have the kids fill this stuff out. And the idea that she's using public school classrooms, and the professors are standing there watching this, using the public university classroom, well, private in this case, using the university classroom to politicize, to literally enroll people who are there as captive audience, right, are being subjected to this.
Yeah, and I love how it... irrespective of politics, Kevin's talking about, any form of campaigning or solicitation in the classroom is wrong. Classrooms are for learning. Students do not pay $75,000 in annual Dartmouth tuition to be inundated with political advertising during class. Thank you, Kevin.
With all due respect, Kevin, I love you. But how much of that $75,000 are you paying for an environmentalist and urban sprawl geography class?
I'm guessing it was just a pit class that it was forced to take. It's probably under there. Yeah, $75,000 to be forced to take.
And we have a fun fact here, right? Katie, the little proselytizer, her degrees are in English and environmental studies. Of course they are. She designed and carried out an independent research project which applied critical race theory to a Middle English poem, Sir Gawain and the Green. Is this person not teaching at UW Oshkosh?
That's what I'm saying.
Because it sounds exactly like...
I included this little fun fact to see how red and boiling point you would reach.
Applying critical race theory to Sir Gawain and the Green Right.
Wait.
Hint, in the Middle Ages, when Gawain was written, there's no black people, there are no minorities. So in other words, you're going to take critical race theory to an all-white poem from an all-white civilization 700 years ago.
Absolutely.
I'd love to not read that.
And
I'd love not to read that.
You could have been her faculty advisor when they got an end product of a 20-page paper. Huh. I knew that would just.
This is the kind of garbage that goes on in every university across the country right now. Why not say, I'm going to write a paper on plunger technology in the 11th century. The fact that they didn't have plungers or toilets, doesn't matter.
Who cares?
We're going to talk about plunger technology in the 11th century.
I'm sure plunging.
20 pages.
20 pages?
20 pages.
Somehow they would find
Dartmouth.
it to be racist.
This is the Ivy League, people. The so-called Ivy League.
Yes. Well, at the public university, like the University of Virginia, here's what they're also turning out.
Public service announcement. Excuse me, if y'all didn't know, this is the MSC, and frankly, there's just too many white people in here, and this is a space for people of color. So just be really cognizant of the space that you're taking up, because it does make some of us POCs uncomfortable when we see too many white people in here. It's only been open for 4 days, and frankly, there's the whole university for a lot of y'all to be at, and there's very few spaces for us. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Apparently, according to this little rocket scientist, the only place black people are allowed to be is the Multicultural Center.
Yes.
I mean, did you hear the end of her speech? Right?
There
There's just so few places for us to be. Virginia, University of Virginia, we must investigate immediately because according to Snowflake, is that racist?
Yes, yes it is.
What would be the opposite of a snowflake then?
I don't want to.
Do we want to go down this road?
No.
Little snowflake there, right? Little pigmented snowflake right there is basically admitting that we can't go anywhere. The only place we're allowed is in the Multicultural Center. And you white folk, you be invading our space.
Yes.
But of course, you and I both know that there are no just white spaces, that she can go anywhere she wants. As a matter of fact, she has privilege to go places that probably Pasty, you and I would never get to go, right? And she's got a whole building dedicated to people who look like her.
Yes, this individual POS actually...
POS, did you say?
Yes, the individual POS.
Because you're supposed to say POC, right?
No, this individual is POS.
I got you.
Anyway,
right,
so this Multicultural Student Center, the MSC that she's referencing, was just basically reopened or did a grand opening thing last week, and there were 4 new student centers put into Newcomb Hall. So it's the Multicultural Student Center, also the LGBTQ Center was relocated with it, and the Latinx Student Center and Interfaith Center. They're all new additions to this. So all of them together, anyone can go in, but she says only the POCs.
Yeah, and notice what it is. It's not a building. It's not a space. It's a conglomeration now. It's an entire, little mini city inside the Virginia campus.
A commune, if you will.
Dedicated only to minority studies and minority interests. And when it was at the grand opening, President Jim Ryan, president of Virginia, said, "As president, I believe deeply that we need to build a community that's not just diverse, but inclusive. Except for all you white people, because we POCs just want to let you know, public service announcement, just want to let you know, right, that we've been open 4 days and there are white people here."
And clear, I mean, she either was not in attendance with Jim Ryan there, or she
she understands. They've just decided it's their stuff.
Oh, that's true.
It's our stuff, and we can have all your stuff. We can go wherever you are, but you can't come here. And where is the outrage? Can you imagine? Let me take you to a fraternity, the University of Virginia. Bunch of dopey, acne-riddled, privileged white kids in this fraternity. And all of a sudden, Snowflake shows up, right? And somebody stands up and says, "Excuse me, y'all," right? This is our place.
Public service announcement.
Public service. This is our space for white broskies to drink and look at dirty magazines, right? You got all kinds of, and he would be actually righter than she would. You actually do have places you can go where only minorities are welcome. But we got no place like my fraternity here. Can you imagine how quickly that fraternity would be disbanded? How quickly that kid would be expelled?
See, back in the day, that was called Animal House.
Well, exactly. And yet, notice how you can get up and do this without literally order people out of the room on the basis. Well, she didn't order. Let's be fair to her. Suggest strongly that your white asses in our black spaces is a real problem for us, and all without any consequences.
Well, I mean, the university did release a statement.
Oh, did they?
They did.
Let's see how unique this one is.
In order to foster the diversity of experience and ideas that make UVA a great and good place to study and work, these centers are open to all members of the university community.
Yeah, and so he reaffirms, the university reaffirms the fact that all kinds of people are welcome there. But there were a lot of people who supported her, right? She took her Twitter down,
She got so much love on
Yeah,
that.
she got a lot of nastiness. But there were also people who support her
Of course.
entirely.
And probably are inspired by
Look,
what she did and will now repeat it.
Let me ask you, being the newest, most woke buildings on campus, where do you think the nicest place to hang out are in the entire university?
I'm going to go with the newest
I would agree
building.
too. I would imagine that those places are pretty well stocked.
Oh, I tell you. Well, speaking of being on campus, it brings back just all the negative thoughts of all the classes I had to take for my teacher education program. So tell me about what Texas is doing in assigning assignments to their
Yeah,
future
and
teachers.
we've really jumped the shark with this. Now, whiteness is a disease. Right? Whiteness is now a sickness. Whiteness is a toxicity. Whiteness is inveterate racism. Whiteness is all these things, right? So the enemy here is whiteness, which is racist at a level you almost never saw in the schools before. I mean, the idea, even when they were keeping little black girls out of schools in Selma, Alabama, even when you had uninclusive, non-diverse universities in the 50s and the 60s, you did not have literally professors standing up there and lecturing that blackness was a disease, right? You'd have to look to Democrats, to liberals like Margaret Sanger to get that, right?
This is true.
That was not happening. Now, in the progressive woke university, you are actually targeting people on the basis of their race. You are making assumptions because no one's ever said what whiteness is, right? So Barack Obama, for instance, had a white mother. We never talk about that. And if you were to
Shut
say
your mouth.
that Barack Obama was white, you would be engaging in racism, right? To point out that fact would they call you a racist, right? To say that Barack Obama was the first mixed race president would get you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, this is true.
But now they're assigning whiteness, or they're exonerating whiteness. Again, Barack Obama has been exonerated from all his whiteness. You and I, on the other hand, there's nothing we could do to be exonerated from it. And the whole thing is predicated simply on skin color, which you can't even always tell, right? How do you know? But they assume.
Yeah. So what happens at these universities, Texas State University is basically training their future teachers, students who are looking to become teachers, that, whiteness is completely bad. So this is for the Public Education in a Multicultural Society course. And there's a series of assignments specifically on whiteness. And as a former student at one of these universities that had to go through the education program, my class was called Multicultural Education. It's the exact same class. And instead of focusing on a whole lot of actual diversity, they focus specifically on race, class, and gender.
Well,
that's it.
And the other thing about this is that race really isn't about your skin color. Anything they don't like is white, right?
Yeah.
Bigotry is white. Can't be anything else. Lack of diversity is white. It can't be anything else. Supremacy, privilege, toxicity are all the premise of white. So you could be as black as the ace of spades, but if you're a black conservative, right? You've imbibed whiteness, right? You've been co-opted by the white culture. This is what they've done. Now they've just made white a synonym, for anything they don't like.
And if you take a look at the syllabus for this course, everything is about these diverse students. They keep saying everything they're going to do is for the diverse students, such as defining perspective on the political and social reality of public schooling for diverse students, examining teachers' roles in the political process as it affects education for diverse students. It goes on and on and on.
Right, for diverse students.
For diverse students. Everything is that. But they also say that they are going to describe the purposes, roles, and structure of schooling at local, state, and federal levels. And I just want to get your input on what should be the purpose, role, and structure of schooling at the local, state, and federal level.
Well, we should have no federal intervention in education whatsoever. Get rid of it. Number two, at the state and local level, let the states disband and turn over to local school districts the right to educate the kids in the best interest of the parents of that school district, not your social race baiting nonsense. In a statement to the College Fix, the dean of the College of Education, Michael O'Malley, defended the lesson plan. And by the way, what do you bet Mike O'Malley is pasty white? What do you bet?
I didn't look him up, but
what do you bet, right? And here's the other thing. Just like we said at the opening of this episode, If you believe human beings should be extinct to protect the environment, then kill yourself. If you are a tenured professor, dean of the College of Education, and you're white, and you're defending an anti-white curriculum, start by resigning.
Yeah, he's white. Found it.
Right. Start by resigning. I mean, how dare you? You're the hypocrite. You sit there as the dean. You're the boss. And in order to justify your white presence, which doesn't belong there, you could just walk away as a sign of support. You could step aside and let them promote somebody else of color to your position, but you don't. So what do? You sit there and you enable this clearly and overtly racist garbage on your watch.
And what I like best about this entire thing, and I know it's only on the syllabus because I have to, include the statement of diversity. Texas State believes that freedom of thought, innovation, and creativity are fundamental characteristics of a community of scholars.
Yeah, but if you happen to think unlike in ways they don't like, that's not diversity. That's white supremacy.
Well, they have, you're supposed to promote such a learning environment. The university has a special responsibility to seek diversity.
Well, the quote from O'Malley, right? Mr. White Man. Studying whiteness is a part of the work that educators are doing to understand racism and its effects on education, right? Are you studying it too, Mike? Mike, are you going to set up to hand over your power to the commune? Quit. Just do it. Kill yourself if you actually believe that that's the only way to save the planet. Quit lecturing the rest of us to kill ourselves. And you, Michael O'Malley, the single greatest thing you can do to foster white privilege on college campuses is give up your well-paid, incredibly tenured deanship. Give it up. Give it up to somebody. Just do a better job than Harvard. Don't hire an Elizabeth Warren pretending to be non-white. Find somebody who's actually a minority and give them your job, you moron.
All right, well, that'll do for more on Michael and this Tuesday episode. If you like the show, please help us spread the word by sharing it with all of your friends.
And if you're a fan of the show and have a business, consider advertising with us. Visit freedomproject.com/advertise. That's freedomproject.com/advertise to learn more. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke, and she's Katie. Until next time, stay white, my friends. Oh my God. I forgot. It's not okay to be white, Katie. It's just not.